Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Poke Relaxing. Today is kind of a news sort of focused video because there are lots of things happening in the world of Pokemon that I thought I would discuss and share with you all in case you're not following these things yourself, or maybe you just are interested in having my thoughts on some of the developments here. So let's jump right in. A few days ago, Pokemon announced the next set, or as it turns out, sets plural, that will be coming out after Destined Rivals. This is going to be the first time that Pokemon has come out with a kind of 2-for-1 or dual set, where essentially there are two completely separate but sort of thematically similar sets being released at the exact same time, which is totally nuts in a lot of ways, but kind of exciting. And we'll walk through kind of what we know about these sets right now. So these are sets that are harkening back to the Black and White era, the 5th generation of Pokemon. And the two sets here are named Black Bolt, which is this blue and black one, and White Flare, which is this white and red packaging. There are some very interesting things about these two sets. Most obvious of which that you've probably heard about if you've seen anything about these sets is that there will be something like 150 plus illustration rares and special illustration rares between the two sets. So that's an average of about like 75 IRs or SIRs per set. And that is a gigantic number of illustration rares and special illustration rares. I think usually in a set that's like 100 and whatever, 60 cards, which is, sort of the average size of a large set of Pokemon. You might have 10 or 15 IRs and 5 or so special illustration rares and prismatic evolutions that we all know and love as being kind of the most expensive. Scarlet and Violet era set was a real innovation in that it had like 30, I think, SIRs, or maybe 32 or something like that, but a very large number of SIRs compared to what was, the highest number prior to that in a given set. So that was quite different. Turns out it's very difficult to pull those SIRs. So it's not as though you open packs of that stuff and SIRs are just falling on the ground and you're just swimming in those things. No, they're quite difficult to get, and the pull rates are very challenging. So I think that set was not quite what maybe some had hoped, when we first learned that it was going to have so many SIRs, but we didn't know what the pull rates would be, and now we know, and it's very hard to pull any of the SIRs, and it's very, very hard to pull any specific SIR that you might be after in that set. So what the pull rates, in these two sets will be is, of course, only going to be known once the product comes out. But certainly the IRs are going to be probably not too much more difficult to pull, if at all more difficult, and probably much easier to pull IRs out of these sets than really any other set. The SIRs, who knows? They could be particularly difficult, or they could be, about the same as the average set that has the same number of SIRs, which I don't know how many that's going to be. Let's look, though, because I think, so it'll be kind of the average number of SIRs in these sets. 5 SIRs in each set, which again, there's certainly plenty of sets that have roughly that number of SIRs. So probably those will be, as difficult to pull as they always are. The illustration rare cards, of which there are many more in these sets than usual, will probably be quite a bit easier to pull than the IRs in, the average Scarlet and Violet set. So that's going to be very different than what we've seen before. And two sets releasing, so 170 card set is quite large. Some sets are like a bit over 100. A lot of them are right around 160, particularly for mainline sets. So to have two sets of 170 cards coming out simultaneously is just craziness. I mean, if you want to put together master sets of both of these sets, you are going to be opening a lot of packs, folks. A lot of packs. So anyways, this is all very interesting, very new. Pre-orders for this product at distribution, opened shortly after Pokemon made their announcements, which usually is the way it goes. My distributor closes like in a week, I think, the pre-order period, so it's like very quick. And there's a ton of products because they're basically doing, all of the. So these are both specialty sets, which means there's no booster boxes, there's no sleeved boosters. There's just kind of the usual sort of handful of collection boxes, and there's these booster bundles, and then of course the primary thing is the ETBs, Elite Trainer boxes, which the contents are here. There's all the usual kind of products that you'd expect for specialty sets, except that there's maybe more of the collection boxes, because as you'll see here, there's collection boxes like the binder collection for each set, and then there's also these combined collector boxes which have some packs. I think it's usually like 2 packs of each set, and then a little promo along with it. So there's a lot of stuff to buy. And I placed a very large pre-order with my distributor for these products. I'm sure I will probably get a small fraction of what I ordered, as is typical. But one thing I don't know, and I've been sort of trying to follow commentary from people, who have hobby shops and distribution accounts, and sort of, a more of a seller's perspective on things. But I've been trying to see if anybody can figure out, like, if we should plan to get as much of each of these sets, these 2 new sets, as we would have gotten, for example, Prismatic. So will I get as much Black Bolt product as I got Prismatic, and then also as much White Flare product as I got Prismatic, essentially creating a situation where I'm buying twice as much in product as I was able to buy for the Prismatic release, which is only 1 set? Or, is it likely that maybe I would expect to get as much of both sets together as I did of Prismatic? So I would get about half as much Black Bolt as I got Prismatic, and half as much White Flare as Prismatic. I'm guessing it's kind of the former, like probably going to get about as much of each as I got of Prismatic, maybe a little bit more, because maybe they've been working on producing larger amounts of this stuff, which I think everyone would appreciate. But given, like the number of IRs and SIRs that are going to be in here that people are going to want to collect, although, all of the Pokemon in here that have IRs and SIRs are from that 5th generation, I think, which, it features Pokemon from the Unova region. And, it doesn't include some of the more popular Pokemon that we're all familiar with, but It does have some pretty popular ones like Reshiram. But I've heard people say, especially if they're sort of longtime Pokemon collectors, that they're not really big fans of the fifth generation of Pokemon, so they won't be as excited, they don't think, about collecting some of the cards in this set as they might be from other sets where they, have their favorite handful of Pokemon. But honestly, I think the number of, full art IR cards and SIR cards in here is going to mean that it's very likely that every collector will have at least a small handful, 2, 3 cards where, like the artwork is just so neat that they really want to have, those cards in their collection. So, I don't know if the particular Pokemon that this is focused on will be a limiting factor, even given how much sort of innovation there is. But we'll find out. So you can see some examples of the IRs and SIRs in here. And I think there's like 11. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, or maybe just 9. No, there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 full arts that we've seen. These actually look really cool to me. These are the sort of black, all white. Probably special illustration rares. With like super cool looking use of textures to kind of create the image. So I bet those are going to just pop like a son of a gun in person. But these are the Japanese versions, and I've read that the sort of textures on the Japanese cards are much more sort of prominent and striking than the texturing that we see on the English cards. And I mean, I have lots of both Japanese and English cards, so I could sort of look closely at two of the same card and see if I agree with that. But I haven't really done that. So there you have it. There is what we've got. And then yesterday, and possibly also today, PokemonCenter.com, the official store of Pokemon, has been selling the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes. I have not been able to get any of those. I haven't tried that hard. I sort of learned about it kind of late in the afternoon yesterday when they first started doing it. And I did pull the screens up, but then I had to like leave my house, and I came back and the product page was up, but it sort of times out after a while. So it had been like a couple hours I was away. So I couldn't really do anything at that point, but if I had been at my computer at that time, I could have. Okay, I'm back. Apologies for that. I actually had another window open with the Pokemon Center page up, and I was in the queue waiting to get through the website, and I thought the fact that they had a queue open meant that perhaps the black and white, the Black Bolt and white flare sets had some products available, but it turned out there was actually only one thing available, which was a limit 2 of Prismatic Evolutions booster bundles, which I put in my cart, tried to check out with, and probably got booted from the site. So they're having some problems there, but before I got booted, it was a somewhat smooth experience. So in any event, there you have it. There is Black Bolt and White Flare. This is coming out July 18th. Again, both these sets release on that day. A bunch of these products will be out then. Some will not be out until, I think, later in the month of July. Might have been actually the next month or something like August. But I can't remember. And then in Japan, the equivalent sets will be out in, I think, June for this. So we'll start to see what the cards look like in hand at that point. But I have not really been picking up the Japanese versions of sets beforehand because they've just been getting so expensive that it would be cool to see the cards, before they launch in the U.S., but it's just not worth the very high price that comes with that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is this sort of explosion that we're suddenly seeing in Sword and Shield booster box prices, particularly with respect to Fusion Strike, which it's really crazy because a lot of this stuff is really telegraphed. I mean, I can remember, like, I think as far back as like 2 weeks ago, people were saying, a lot of content creators on YouTube that I follow were saying that Fusion Strike was due for a run up. At the time it was kind of just below 500, and I think it had been over 500 before, back, kind of everything was going nuts. But then Fusion Strike and a bunch of other Sword and Shield stuff really took about a 10 or 15% retrace back to lower prices for a good long time. And suddenly, a couple weeks ago, multiple people started talking about how Sword and Shield was going to perhaps take off again. And then, like a few days ago, Rudy from Alpha Investments, funny, I don't think anybody knows Rudy's last name, but maybe it's public knowledge, I just don't know. But Alpha Investments is, one of the OG kind of investment-focused channels in the TCG and especially lately Pokemon space. So he tends to, kind of be the voice of God when it comes to topics around investing in Pokemon and other TCGs. And he did a video about some sort of insider information. Basically, he was getting a lot of requests because he sells things to people who subscribe to his Patreon, and he'll get a lot of requests from these people that look for a case of whatever Evolving Skies or whatever the product they're interested is at the moment. And he was reporting that he'd gotten a lot of interest in the last week or so with Fusion Strike. Was that a product of the fact that a lot of content producers are talking about Fusion Strike going up, or was it something that happened before that and we're only learning about it now from Rudy's report? Don't know, but that video from Rudy, I think, added fuel to the fire. And in fact, like the next day, I went shopping for some, to see what Fusion Strike was available out there. I found a case that was like at about $505 a box. So it's like 30, whatever, $3,050 or something. And I actually tried to buy it, but this is on DealerNet. So when you want to buy something there, you sort of indicate you want to buy it, and that has to be accepted. But it could not be accepted. In that case, it was not accepted. And then I went back to sort of see what else was available, and everything Fusion Strike booster box was gone at that point. So I was kind of just late on picking up anything to add to the inventory. But I have to go and look. I think I have 4 or 5 Fusion Strike booster boxes, so I got something. I also have a few cases of the Elite Trainer boxes, which we'll look at next. But in any event, I did want to take a quick peek. So, like, basically before, a week ago, Fusion Strike was, slowly kind of on the rise. Took a dip here around March to kind of low to mid 400s. And other than that, it has been right about mid 400s for a few months now. Go back a little further, we can see, well, okay, that's not useful. But, at least back to February 8th here, which is a good 3 months ago, it was kind of always in this middle 400, like 440 to, or 430 at the bottom to 4, kind of 80 right before the spike up happens. So just kind of sideways for a long time. And then suddenly, again, about just a few days ago, we start to see some very interesting things. Namely, these boxes start popping off at $700 plus, high 600s. Um, Going back to, this is like 2 days ago on the 6th, 3 days ago on the 5th, 3 days ago on the 5th, they're at 600, and kind of earlier in the 5th and on the 4th, they're at kind of mid 550s. So that's still, $50 up, or about a 10% increase, just about overnight, on this product, since it was at 500, on the 2nd of May, which is 6 days ago. So now people are kind of panicking a little bit. There's a lot of FOMO buying of this product. Lowest price is $736 plus shipping on TCG Player, and a lot of people are speculating that this product is going to be the next Sword and Shield box to go over $1,000 after Evolving Skies did it quite some time ago. And Rudy from Alpha Investments has posted that he's like not selling Sword and Shield for a couple of months because he thinks, the price is just too unpredictable at this point, and he wants to let it settle a little bit before selling anything. So that's only adding, kind of more fuel to the fire, and we very well may see this box go to $1,000 in the coming 1 to 2 weeks. I really don't know. I'm probably just consigned to not really add any more to the collection at this point. People are already starting to focus on some of the other Sword and Shield sets, like Lost Origin, Chilling Reign, Silver Tempest, which have been sideways for quite some time. Brilliant Stars is frequently mentioned as sort of the twin of Fusion Strike in this current run up in pricing. So that one is got some pretty significant increase in the last week or so as well. But I don't know. For me, Lost Origin feels like the next best box after Fusion Strike. In fact, I sort of would personally rather have Lost Origin than Fusion Strike if they were priced equally. But as it happens, Lost Origin is significantly now lower than Fusion Strike, although its market probably is $455, not $406. And Chilling Reign, which, back in the run-up of several months ago when all Sword and Shield was kind of going up along with everything else in the Pokemon world, Chilling Reign was second fiddle to Fusion Strike, and it was very close to it for a long time. So the fact that it's now below Lost Origin is sort of interesting, and I could see this one getting hyped up significantly as well. But Silver Tempest, kind of the cheapest among them. But there's also Darkness Ablaze. I think that's about $230, $240. Seems like a relative bargain. Not a well-loved set, that one, but it strikes me as actually one of the rarest Sword and Shield sets. You do not see Darkness Ablaze around very much, so if rarity means anything, that could be one to keep an eye on, and it's quite cheap right now compared to some of these other sets. So when booster boxes go nuts, and I'm sort of feeling priced out of them, I do like to look at other products, and the most obvious next step after a booster box is the Elite Trainer boxes, which in the case of Sword and Shield era have 8 packs in them. So I wanted to take a quick look at the pricing on these, and we have to go to view more data, kind of see really what's going on here. But if I go back to, I could even go back to a month ago, which would be April 8th. These boxes are about $130, with some kind of within that week, going to the 145 level, which is where they have been basically since the middle of April, right here, 418, 419. they get to 145 and they just kind of never go back. Despite the sort of very odd sale here, 135. Everything is 145 or higher, and that's where they sit currently. So there really hasn't been a corresponding spike in the price of the Fusion Strike Elite Trainer boxes as compared to the booster boxes of Fusion Strike. So I would say this is probably a product that um, I think has some room to go up, particularly if the booster boxes do head to $1,000. I would guess that these probably go up to maybe 170, 180, something like that. So it does seem like the fervor and the FOMO around the booster box of Fusion Strike has not yet hit the other Fusion Strike products, particularly the Elite Trainer box. So that could be an opportunity if you are a believer in Fusion Strike and you don't want to spend, whatever the current lowest market price is for the booster box is probably about 700 some dollars. You could pick up a couple of these and have spent quite a bit less. So that's something to think about. I'm not sure I would be chasing any of this stuff right now, just because I do see a few other opportunities, both in Sword and Shield, like with Darkness Ablaze, for example, but also in Scarlet and Violet. I just think Prismatic Evolution seems like a no-brainer to pick up for me if you are holding or if you want to hold things for like that 3 to 5 year time frame. I just can't believe that once Prismatic goes out of print, that the ETBs are not going to be $300 given the value of the cards in that set. So right now, there's a lot of reprints that are making their way into the market in Prismatic Evolutions, and I did want to talk about actually a third item, which is the reprints of Prismatic Evolutions and the allocations of the next set, Destined Rivals. Because those are two things I'd mentioned on one of my prior videos as things I wanted to focus on for content. So Prismatic Evolution booster packs are currently sitting at $12.67 per pack, which is down a bit, but that is a crazy high price for a booster pack. And these are selling, I think, at that price. Yeah, so they're selling for $12.50, give or take here. And right now, if we can go back, you can pick up ETBs for $112 shipped, folks. And there are, I think, 9 packs in there. So that, if I can get my calculator up, 112 divided by 9. So that's $12.44 per pack in a sealed product with a promo and some, other items with minimal, but still some value to it. So if the raw packs are $12.40 and the packs sealed inside of a, an Elite Trainer box with some other stuff are $12.40 as well, that seems like a real buy to me. There are also products that I think can get you even cheaper than $12.40 a pack. I want to do, let's go, Prismatic Evolutions poster. Yeah, so these poster collections, actually I'm kind of surprised they're so high, but we'll look at actual sales. Well, actually, all right, so the lowest listed here is $26.70 plus 10 shipping. And the shipping is kind of, I think, a red herring there because a lot of times you're not really going to pay for that shipping. If you buy like a case of these, or if you buy them in person, which is quite doable. And the reason that I say that is because um, poster collections and Elite Trainer boxes are both part of the same kind of reprint phenomenon that's happening right now. So I have gotten both poster collections and Elite Trainer boxes from my distributor, which, as far as I know, they have never really done any of the reprint stuff that I've been hearing, um, you know, market noise about for the last 6 months. So I was kind of shocked that I actually got something. It was from a reprint. Um, and also, I know you can get these for something like $30 shipped if you look hard enough. I bought 8 cases of these things. That's not that many because there's only 6 per case, but it is a fair amount of quantity overall in volume. I bought 8 cases of these things for something like $28.50 a box, and there's 3 packs in there, so that's less than $10. And this was like a week ago. I bought these, week and a half ago, and it was somewhere. It was just well, I'll just tell you, it was the owner of a YouTube channel called Anon TCG, which is kind of one of my favorite ones for sort of insider kind of seller reseller focused content about kind of market trends and stuff, and like distribution issues and considerations and stuff like that. So he sometimes will sell stuff to the public, which he announces on his Discord channel, which is free to join. And this was one of the things that he was selling. And I was just like, well, that seems like less than $10 a pack for Prismatic in a sealed format. Seems like a no-brainer to me, because again, I could crack all of that stuff open, sell the packs for $12.50 each, and I would have only paid like whatever, $9.50 for each of those packs. So if you do that times 100 packs, that's a bunch of money. But I'm not really interested in like a very small, like 10% profit. Right now, I would rather hold these for 3 years and let them double in price or better, and see if that doesn't turn out to be the better move on this stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I did want to talk about reprints because I did finally get some reprints. I did get just a few cases of Prismatic ETBs, and the wholesale price on those is like ridiculous. You do have to buy a certain amount of like pretty much garbage product from your distributor. At least that's the way my distributor works, in order to get access to that stuff. And you have to buy like a bundle of stuff. So I got like that, and like some mini tins, and the poster collections, and there might be one other thing that I got in that bundle of Pokemon stuff. But in order to get that bundle, I had to buy about 10% of the value of the bundle's wholesale pricing in sort of junky products that probably could be sold for like half of what I paid for them if I wanted to sell them right now. But a lot of that stuff I'll just sort of hang on to and hope it appreciates over time. So that's the way my distributor works. Other distributors will just sort of charge higher than wholesale pricing, and I've heard of distributors charging like $80 or so for an ETB, and saying you can buy whatever up to a certain number of cases of them depending on your sales volume or your purchase volume for the prior year, stuff like that. So generally one of those two approaches is how most distributors are going to work. My distributor works one of those ways, and I felt fortunate to be able to get a little bit of it, so that I have some more Prismatic, which I'm kind of always trying to get at reasonable pricing, while it's in current production and it's still sort of out there at Targets occasionally, and other places, and so people might, be willing to sell it at a decent price on eBay or wherever. I generally don't ever plan to see Prismatic in the wild at this point. If I did, I would probably just like get it something to open with the kids or something. But it's funny. Somebody commented about something about scalping when I posted a video of my kind of in-home fake card shop, and I thought that was pretty funny because, 98% of the stuff that I get is from the aftermarket. So I buy from eBay or I buy from DealerNet or I buy from just other stores online, and very little of what I get is from Target or Walmart. I just I have no interest really in trying to hunt that stuff down. I'm sure there's ways to do it, but I'm not interested in that. It's too much effort and work, and frankly, I'd rather just let either people who wander in and find stuff in Target get it, or people who want to put in the effort to stock the person who puts the stuff on shelves. And I guess God bless them. I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff, but I'm not willing to compete with those folks. So I guess they're gonna do what they're gonna do without my intervention. But in any event, yeah. So I'm just buying kind of where I can get it, and hanging on to most of it, frankly, for the long term. But I do plan to put some stuff on my website at some point, because it would be fun to get stuff out there in the world, and maybe take a little profit when things have appreciated, as they've certainly done in most cases. And so the last thing I want to talk about was Destin Rivals. We'll take a quick peek here at current pre-sale pricing for Destin Rivals stuff. There's been a lot of kind of talk lately about Destin Rivals crashing, and you can see the chart here kind of going from this high point of $400+ down to where it's at now, for about $265 for a booster box. And the idea that represents like a crash is in my view just sort of nonsense. I think the idea of a booster box being priced at $400 plus when it hasn't even been released yet, and there's about to be like a bajillion of them on the market once the product does release. I mean that's just crazy. Anybody with sort of any exposure to the Pokemon market and any kind of common sense will tell you that is just, unless the hobby doubles in size between where we are now and where launch day occurs in the end of May for this particular product, there's just no way that a product is going to sell for over $400 a booster box. So people who pre-bought bought pre-sales of Destin Rivals at that $400 plus, I think were like just about all new entrants to the market who just didn't really know that that's totally insane. So they're like, I gotta have it, and the cheapest I can find it is $400, because maybe only a handful of sellers are pre-selling, and they can just kind of name their price. So taking any kind of conclusion from the price that was set at that point is just kind of craziness. I do think that if you look at kind of the height of like Surging Sparks, which was the first like really popular Scarlet and Violet era set, if you look at the sort of height of pricing of that box as kind of the ceiling, more or less, or close to the ceiling of pricing for a new booster box in the Scarlet and Violet era, I think that's a much more sane number, and as it happens, that's kind of exactly where it is right now. So it just took a while for some of the kind of very irrational actors who were purchasing these booster boxes to sort of get shaken out or shaken down really, out of the market, and for a more realistic pre-sale price of this stuff to crop up. And so what's going to happen when this product releases at the end of May is that whatever the pre-sale price is, at the time of release, it's going to go down. It's going to go down probably 10%, because that's what happens literally every single time a product comes out. And that's not just Pokemon, that's like every popular trading card set, be it football, basketball, Magic, whatever, right? And the reason that happens is very, it's very logical if you think about it for more than a few seconds. When a product releases, suddenly hundreds of thousands of people have that product in their hand, and a lot of those people, maybe not, certainly not a majority of them, but a lot of them, they want to sell, because they got it from distribution, or they got a good pre-order price. They bought it from Walmart or whatever at MSRP, and they get it in hand and they want to sell it. And when a ton of people want to sell something at the same price, it drives the price down, because they all want to be the cheapest listing on eBay and the cheapest listing on TCG. So when they go to put their product in to do their sales listing, they look at what the cheapest price is currently and they beat it by $1. And then, the next guy does that, and they beat that by $1, and the next guy does that, and they beat that by $1, right? So people just keep doing that until there's no one left that wants to beat the lowest price by $1. And then from there it can go back up again, because everybody who is wanting to sell has had the chance to list their product and or has sold it. And then you've got people who are not so anxious to sell, and so they may put their price on TCG Player for like $5 above the lowest, because they don't want to sell for the current lowest price. They want to wait until the market kind of moves a little higher, and they put it at that price, and then they're in the queue to have their box bought when it's the lowest price available, and it will sell when that time comes. So it's very natural for products when they release to go down, 10% or so, just because there's so many people trying to sell at once. But the people who want to sell right away will all get their products sold, and then from there, kind of the price marches back up, because the lowest available price item gets purchased, and then the next time somebody wants to buy, it's going to be at a higher price. So all very natural, and that will happen with Destined Rivals, and it will go back up, most likely, once the early sellers are kind of, washed out of the system. And then the real question is, what is the price going to settle at when it starts moving back up from wherever it dips down to? If it dips down to like 230 or something, and then starts moving back up, where will it stop moving back up? Will it be 266? Or will it be 250? Will it be 270? Will some FOMO kick in at some point and it goes to 300? I don't know. But the value of the cards in the Destined Rival set is quite high when you look at the value of the singles in the Japanese equivalents. So this is a set that does have the sort of fundamentals to be a set that does get very valuable, that perhaps goes higher than Surging Sparks in price, and that is in a much better place than like Journey Together, which does not have like particularly expensive or valuable single cards in it. So the smart analysis, or the smart sort of folks who are analyzing that I've been listening to, do suggest that Destined Rivals is probably going to be heading north of $300. Now, do I want you all to go and buy boxes for $266, looking to sell when everything gets over $300? Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say if you haven't, found a good way to buy this stuff at MSRP, or, I don't know, $200 or so, I would maybe wait until release day, wait for that dip, see if you can pick something up for significantly less than it's selling for now, or see if you can get in on some of the, the product drops on Walmart or Target or in store somewhere, and try to pick up things that way, and see if you can hang on to that stuff until it goes, north of $300, if it ever gets there, rather than trying to buy things at current pricing, in the 267, 268, 9, 270 level. I certainly would not buy any product at that price point. But I have personal bias because I have distribution, so I will be getting a chunk of this stuff. And my question then becomes, like, how much do I want to sell versus how much do I want to hang on to for the long term? And those are questions I still am trying to figure out answers to. So there you have it, folks. I apologize for anybody who wanted a nice quick video, but we are here to relax, take our time with things, and enjoy the hobby together. So hopefully a long video is not unwelcomed by most people. They won't all be this long, but this one was. And yeah, next time I do a video, I want to do some really cool stuff, I think. Anyways, I have a bunch of older collection boxes that I've really been getting excited about, picking up, and kind of looking forward to displaying those in the fake hobby shop that I featured on my channel a couple videos ago, and yeah, looking at each of those boxes and what's inside, and sharing them with you. I just think they're like, I don't know, they feel like beautiful pieces of art to me. These collection boxes, kind of from the Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, and even back to the XY era in some cases. So I've picked up a bunch of different stuff in the last, I don't know, month or so, couple, or maybe 3-4 weeks, and I've been wanting to do a video showing those all to you. So I hope to work on that tonight, and that will probably be the next video that I post. So if you are interested in that stuff, or you've never seen some of these older collection boxes and would always kind of wanted to, I hope you'll take keep an eye out for that video. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to share that with you, and I'd love to hear from you guys if you're also interested in collection boxes, and maybe you have some older ones, and maybe you got some extra ones you want to trade or sell to me. I'm still very much actively looking for these things, but like everything else, they're going up in value. So starting to feel like it's kind of daunting to get a lot of these good ones at anything approaching reasonable prices. So I don't know, at some point I might be priced out of getting a lot of the cool ones from yesteryear. But that's what I've got planned for my next video. Hope you're all doing well, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Until then, stay relaxed.